I flew 12 hours for mom's emergency surgery. She was at a spa. Sister handed me a $2,800 care fee. I walked out. 2 months later, they begged for my insurance. My name is Emma. I'm 29, and I moved 12 hours away to a city where it rains gently instead of loudly, where I learned how to pay my own bills and how to sleep without a phone under my pillow. My mother is Margaret, beautiful like a classic movie star if you stand back and blur your eyes. My older sister is Lauren, always in charge, always correct, always convinced. Her emergencies are everyone's responsibilities. There are family roles that get passed down the way other families pass down china. In ours, Lauren was the golden child. I was the scapegoat who took the good coat and left for college, then never came back. At 1:37 a.m., my time, I booked the last seat on an overnight flight that would spit me out on the opposite coast just as sunrise stumbled into the sky. I called my manager at work and left a message that had the broken rhythm of a bad drum solo. Family hospital. I'm so sorry. I grabbed my passport, my insurance card, out of habit. Why was I bringing that? And the cheap little travel candle I keep for luck. I threw it back into the drawer because what kind of person lights a candle in a hospital? On the way to the airport, I imagined my mother's body going soft beneath an ocean of anesthesia. I imagined my sister standing in a fluorescent hallway chewing the varnish off her nails, a clipboard clutched to her chest. I imagined a doctor with a calm voice, maybe named Dr. Singh or Dr. Reynolds, explaining risks like a metronome, 10%, 5%, 2%. I imagined all the things people post online about miracles, and I tried to believe them. The thing about emergencies is they have an unmistakable smell, metal and heat, and the kind of panic that never quite cools even after it's over. It clings to your clothes. At least that's what I always thought. On the plane, a flight attendant touched my shoulder and offered water and the most sympathetic eyes I've ever been handed by a stranger. "Do you want me to let the pilot know?" she asked in a whisper that made me wonder if pilots could give you tailwinds for grief. "No, it's okay," I said, and I folded like paper over my tray table and slept in 10-minute pieces. I woke up to the man in the aisle seat snoring like a motorcycle, and to my phone vibrating with a new message from Lauren, "Gate pickup? We'll need to go straight to the hospital." I left a note with the nurse. "Bring insurance card." Bring insurance card. Everyone brings insurance cards to hospitals, I told myself. Stop reading into it. Stop making it about money. Just get there. When we landed, I walked fast enough to make my lungs scratch. The airport smelled like coffee and disinfectant. I kept expecting to see Lauren barreling toward me in tears, but she wasn't there. She messaged, "Traffic. You know how it is. Just Uber to St. Matthew's Medical. We'll meet you at admissions." St. Matthew's has that old city hospital architecture, the kind that feels ceremonial. I stared up at the sign like a pilgrim. Inside, I walked to the admissions desk, pressed both palms to the high counter, and said, "I'm here for Margaret Davenport. She's scheduled for emergency surgery this morning?" The woman asked me to spell the name, and I did, with the care I'd used to cross a minefield. She clacked at the keyboard, smiled politely, and clacked again. Then she tilted her head. "There's no Margaret Davenport registered today," she said. "She would have come in overnight," I said. She's supposed to be prepped? Maybe under her maiden name? Margaret Collins? Maybe it's all under the surgeon's name. It's emergency surgery. I was performing the word emergency like a passcode, as if it would unlock a secret drawer. More clacking, more head tilt. "I don't have anyone by those names," she said. "Do you know what department? Who the surgeon is? We can try calling." I called Lauren. She didn't pick up. I texted, "I'm at admissions. They don't have mom." No answer. I sat down in one of those hospital waiting room chairs that make you feel like apologizing for existing. A television in the corner played a morning show where two people with perfect teeth made pancakes and joked about winter hats. I checked my phone again. Nothing. I took a picture of the admissions desk sign and sent it to Lauren, like proof that I was very much where I said I'd be. Then my phone chimed. But it wasn't from Lauren. It was a push notification from my mother's Instagram, the account she keeps public because she enjoys arguing with strangers about organic butter. A news story. I tapped it, and there was my mother glowing. In the frame, a wall of eucalyptus, a glass teacup with something neon green in it, a caption, "Self-care before the big day. #detox spa." It was time-stamped 40 minutes earlier. I stared at the screen as if I could move the picture by thinking hard enough. My stomach became an elevator that changed floors too fast. The next slide was a boomerang of her toes in a foot bath, pearly pink nails in water that sparkled like a commercial. The location sticker said Pearl Springs Wellness and Spa. I called Lauren again. Voicemail. I typed 3 messages, deleted them, then typed a 4th that was so calm it felt like it belonged to someone else. Where are you? I'm at the hospital. Mom just posted from a spa. A bubble appeared. Then, she's doing a stress reduction protocol before surgery. I could hear her voice in the text. Clinical confidence. Protocol. She always understood panic as a subject she'd already passed. Which surgeon? I typed. What time is the operation? I can't find her in the system. Another bubble, then a long nothing. Finally, meet me out front. We'll explain. The doors whooshed open. Outside, winter bit my face with small, clean teeth. An SUV pulled up like it knew who owned the curb. Lauren got out in sunglasses, which is a choice at 8:12 a.m. She looked perfect. Hair like she had a deal with Flatirons. Coat that said she knew secret brands. She hugged me and inhaled like she was trying to smell my exhaustion and file it away. Thank God you made it, she said, but her voice didn't sound like gratitude. It sounded like an agenda item. Where is Mom? I asked. In a good place, she said, and I think she meant physically but also philosophically. Pearl Springs, Dr. Randall said to keep her cortisol down. We'll go there and then we'll bring her back here to admit. Dr. Randall? I repeated. What kind of doctor? Lauren waved a hand. Integrative. He's very in demand. You can't be allopathic about this. She slid into the SUV and motioned for me to get in. Look, she said as the car lurched into traffic. Before we get Mom, you should see this. She dug in her tote and pulled out a paper she'd obviously printed that morning. White printer paper. No letterhead. The words family care fee at the top and a list beneath it like a shopping receipt if grocery stores sold guilt. Pickup and coordination fee, $300, I read aloud. Accommodation booking, $500. Lost income, $1, $200. Family emergency surcharge, $800. I looked up at her. What is this? It's just the breakdown of what I've had to handle, she said, like she was explaining parking meters to a tourist. Flights, logistics, time off. I've been here the whole time. You flew. That's your choice. But there are costs to everything, and we have to be balanced as a family. Balanced, I said. I felt suddenly very awake. Balanced as in, you hand me a bill the second I step off the plane? Don't be dramatic, she said. I'm showing you transparency, for once. This is what it costs to manage Mom's care in a crisis. You can contribute. That's what grown-ups do. This is not a crisis, Lauren, I said. I waved my phone with Mom's story still glowing. She's at a spa. Stress reduction before surgery, she repeated. You're being very negative. That's not helpful energy. Is there surgery? I asked. Like on the calendar with a surgeon who went to medical school and not to a quartz cave? Lauren's jaw set, that little hinge of indignation she keeps polished. You don't trust me. You never have. Mom has had pain for months. She finally took control, and you, she shook the paper, you float in and act superior. Where is the actual appointment? I said. She reached for her phone, scrolled, and held it out with clipped nails. On the screen was an email from a clinic with a name that used too many vowels. Consultation for elective procedure, it said. March 24th, 2 months from now. The surgeon's name was there, and below it, words like evaluation for potential candidacy. Elective. Potential. Words that mean not today and not emergency. Lauren, I said softly, because sometimes softness is a knife with better aim, there's no emergency surgery. She looked out the window. It was urgent when we called you. It felt urgent. She was scared and I was alone and you wanted me here, I said. You wanted my card. You wanted a scapegoat with a wallet. She flinched like I'd hit her, then pressed her lips hard together. It's handled. Just pay the fee and let's be a family. The SUV slid into the spa parking lot, where cars gleamed like they'd been waxed with promises. The sign read Pearl Springs Wellness and Spa in a font that whispered, "Trust me, darling." Inside, the air was so lavender I could almost taste it. A woman with the calm of a mountain greeted us and offered water in cups so thin I held mine like a newborn mouse. And there, in a robe whiter than surgery itself, was my mother. Margaret turned toward us like a queen at a balcony. "There's my baby," she said, but it wasn't the low moan of a pre-op patient. It was the satisfied sigh of someone who had just discovered the price of a good secret. She held out her arms and I hugged her. stiff, like I didn't want to wrinkle the narrative. "Mom," I said, "what are you doing?" "Hydrating," she said, and wiggled the IV in her arm, a clear bag dripping something that definitely didn't belong to a hospital. "This helps with post-op inflammation." "Post-op you haven't had," I said. She fluttered her lashes, those expensive lashes Lauren likes to call maintenance. "Dr. Randall says the body knows before the mind does." "Dr. Randall sells vitamins out of a room that smells like lime," I said. Lauren cleared her throat. "Mom, can you sign the invoice?" "Invoice?" Mom said, like the word might be a French pastry you order at noon. I turned to the spa woman. "I'm sure you're wonderful," I said, because manners are like seatbelts, and I needed one. "But is there anything medical happening here that requires consent beyond a credit card?" "It's an IV hydration protocol," she said, with the conviction of a person who had recently been trained not to say the word medicine. "All our clients sign a wellness waiver." I looked at Lauren. "I flew 12 hours, I said. "I came here because you called me crying. You told me she was going into surgery at dawn. You told me a nurse needed a family member on site to sign." Lauren's eyes were glass. "We didn't want you to overthink it and say no." There it was, the center of the earth, the black dot of the pupil at the heart of every manipulation. They needed me to arrive in motion, not in thought. They needed me to land, scared enough to open my wallet without checking the weather. I folded the family care fee paper and slipped it back into her tote. "No," I said. "No?" Lauren repeated, like the word was a bad smell. "I'm not paying a care fee," I said. "I'm not paying for you to drive your own mother to a spa. I'm not paying for your lost income, because your chosen job doesn't pay you for emergencies. I will be at the hospital when there is a hospital, with doctors and charts and consent. I'll help. I'll sit with her. I'll bring the good pajamas. But you," I pointed gently between them like I was counting heartbeats, "you don't get to counterfeit a crisis." Lauren's eyes flicked to Mom, who had retreated into the softness of her robe, a tiny boat pulling away from shore. "Emma," she said, "don't be cruel. You know what anxiety does to me. Lauren handled everything." "Anxiety doesn't post boomerangs," I said. Lauren's breath galvanized. "You always make everything transactional. This is about being a team, sharing duties, being fair, pay the fee." "No," I said again, cleaner this time, "and I'm leaving." I kissed my mother's cheek. It smelled like rosewater. "Call me when you have the consult," I said. "I'll fly in for that, and I'll sit with you, and we'll ask 3 million questions together, I promise." Then I walked out of Pearl Springs Wellness and Spa, past a woman getting a glow drip and a man asleep in a recliner wearing a sleeping mask like a tiny blindfold. Outside, the air was colder than the spa would ever let it be. I stood there waiting for my Uber and learned that sometimes the sound of a car pulling up feels like a bully. Sometimes the silence between your organs is the loudest thing in town. On the way back to the airport, my phone detonated with group texts. "Lauren, you're heartless." "Mom, Emma, you hurt me today." "Lauren, we'll send you the updated invoice." "Random cousin Danielle who collects drama like seashells." "I heard you abandoned Aunt Margaret during her health crisis." I turned my phone face down and watched the city smear past the window like a watercolor. At the terminal, I changed my flight for that evening and wandered the concourses like a ghost who couldn't haunt anything properly. I ate a pretzel I didn't taste and cried in a bathroom stall so clean it made the crying feel luxurious. Then I went home. For 2 months, I didn't talk to them. That's not entirely true. I answered 2 texts, both logistics. What was our pediatrician's name? And what was the Wi-Fi password at the lake house? Because there are small mercies that don't cost anything. I went to therapy, which I pay for myself. A sentence I offer not to brag, but as context. I told my therapist, a woman named Dana with kind eyes and a wildfire brain, that my family carries lit matches around like they're candles, and I had finally realized I don't have to hold the extinguisher for everyone. We practice sentences in her office like school children. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available for that. I will help with X. I won't do Y. It felt like relearning my own language. Then one Wednesday at 10:06 a.m., an email slid into my inbox from Lauren with the subject line, "Insurance info needed ASAP." The body of the email was a theater built of bullet points. Mom has consult with Dr. Randall's recommended surgeon on March 24th. We are working on combining coverages to keep costs down. We'll need your policy number, SSN, and date of birth to leverage your family plan as a backup. Also need your mailing address and a photo of your driver's license so billing can match households. This will save everyone money. Please send by EOD. Love you. I laughed out loud. It came out strange and high, like a kettle. I replied, "Parents aren't eligible dependents on my employer plan. That's not how this works. Please don't ask again." A minute later, my phone rang. "Lauren." I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again, like persistence can force a different reality. I picked up. "Did you get my email?" she asked, all brisk sunshine. "I did," I said. "The answer is no." "You don't understand the system," she said. "The HR person at my friend's company said sometimes they make exceptions. If we put you as head of household." "Lauren," I said, flat as a table, "it would be insurance fraud." "Oh my God, calm down," she said. "It's not like we're stealing chemo. It's a laparoscopic procedure. It's simple." "Then pay for it," I said. Silence, the kind that grows moss. "This is why no one can count on you," she said finally. "I do everything, and you do this sanctimonious performance." "Stop talking to me like I'm a bank with opinions," I said. "You didn't tell the truth. You manufactured an emergency to get me on a plane. And now you're trying to put my name where it doesn't belong. I'm not giving you my social, my policy number, my ID. Don't ask again." She sighed, the sound of a door closing in a house she owns. "Then when the bill comes, don't expect me to be nice." "I never do," I said, and hung up. After that call, I did 4 things that made me feel like I was narrating a safety video. 1. I called my HR representative at work, a woman named Qley, who says the word compliance like it's a prayer. She confirmed, cheerfully, wondrously, that I could not, under any variation of paperwork, put a parent on my plan. 2. I set a freeze on my credit. 3. I changed my passwords and added authentication to things that had previously let me in like a regular customer. 4. I made a folder in my email called Receipts and dropped in everything, from the spa footage to the family care fee to the insurance request, because if there's anything my family respects less than boundaries, it's documentation. 2 days later, I got a text from my mother. "I wish you'd be more flexible," it said. "You know how medical billing is. It's all who you know and what you can get covered. You could help." I typed, "I will come to your consult. I will sit with you on surgery day. I will cook for you afterward and fight with receptionists about discharge instructions. I will not commit fraud or pay a care fee." I watched the dots bubble and vanish. Then she sent a single word. "Fine." There's a sound your heart makes when it gets tired. It's a resignation balloon letting out air quietly, so as not to alarm anyone. On March 24th, I flew back. This time, no suitcases full of panic, just a tote with a book and a sweater. I took a lift to the surgeon's office, which existed in a building with carpets so beige you could forget the word beige. I filled out a visitor form so honest it felt like a confession. Relationship to patient? Daughter. Emergency contact? Not Lauren. I waited in a lobby where everyone whispered, even though there was nothing to hide. My mother came out of the consult room holding a folder like it contained a new baby. Lauren followed, her eyes doing math. "Good news," Mom said. "I'm a candidate." "Great," I said, and meant it. "The earliest date is May," Lauren added, "but we can move quicker if we do the surgery center instead of the hospital." She looked at me with a brightness that smelled like a trap. "Less red tape." "Less equipment," I said. "Less 24/7 staff. Less ICU. But yes, less red tape." "We'll need to put the deposit down," Lauren said. $5,000. They'll reimburse some of it when insurance settles." She gave insurance this round, generous shape, like a balloon you reflate if you keep blowing. I stared at her. "And by we, you mean me." She didn't blink. "Split proportionally, you make more." I looked at my mother. "Do you want me to pay for this?" I asked her. "I want you to be here," she said. "I want my girls together." She looked at me like that sentence might be a key that still opened me. "I will be here," I said. "I will not be your bank." Lauren's jaw clicked. "We can do a payment plan," she said. "Stop making this so melodramatic." I met with the billing coordinator. I asked her about itemized statements and pre-authorization and financial assistance. I learned more about code modifiers than I'll ever use. She was kind, and she gave my mother a pamphlet about payment options that use words like compassion and mean interest. After, we went for soup. Mom spooned broth into her mouth like a person who wanted to appear fragile. Lauren stirred a glass of water, as if she were seeing if sugar would appear. I said, "Here's what I can do. I will take the week off around your surgery. I will fly in. I will sleep on your couch and do the things you hate, like ice and walking and the shower stool. I will keep track of your meds and make sure you don't read WebMD at midnight. I will file paperwork, and I will call to ask, Why is this bill this number? And I will call again. I will not give you my insurance card, and I will not pay a fee for being your daughter. Mom reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You always think love is a job, she said. It's just showing up. I showed up, I said, at a spa. She withdrew her hand. The soup was suddenly loud in our bowls. In May, my mother had her surgery. We chose the hospital because when we asked the surgeon what he would choose for his mother, he said without hesitation, the hospital. It turns out when surgeons get honest, their words line up neatly. You can stack them like coins. I flew in the night before. I brought the soft pajamas and the dry shampoo she likes, and the lip balm she claims doesn't taste like chemicals. I brought a notebook of questions like a student on the first day of class. On the morning of, we sat in pre-op with the curtain drawn, and Lauren paced with a clipboard she didn't need. I asked the nurse, a man named Gabriel with a smile that forgave everything, can you confirm the meds she'll get afterward? Can I see the plan? He showed me. He didn't look annoyed. He looked relieved that someone was treating the day like a map instead of a story. The surgery went well. It always takes longer, even when they promise it won't. The surgeon came out with that tired kindness they must learn in fellowship. Everything went as expected, he said. She'll be sore. She'll be fine. We did the part where you nod and cry and ask if you can hug him, even though that's probably against a policy somewhere. Recovery is the unphotographable part. It's the smell of hospital soap and plastic, the incessant beep of machines programmed to remind you that bodies are alarm systems. It's the slow trot of the clock toward visiting hours, and the way someone always knocks at the wrong time. It's the first sip of water, the first eat of saltines, the first demonstration of how to stand without your insides throwing a tantrum. I watched my mother tell a volunteer that she was not fragile, just temporary, and I saw a softness in her I hadn't been allowed to see as a child. I adjusted her blankets and rubbed lotion into her hands, and felt something uncoil in me that had maybe been waiting to be useful in a way that wasn't transactional or theatrical. On day 2, Lauren stormed in with papers. They coded it wrong, she said, like she had discovered a conspiracy. If they code it as diagnostic instead of elective, it hits the deductible differently. Don't, I said gently. We're not changing reality to change a bill. Everyone does this, she hissed. Not everyone, I said, and not us. That night at Mom's apartment, when she was finally home and we were dividing tasks, when to give meds, when to call, when to peel back the dressing and pretend we were braver than we were, Lauren pulled me aside. You know, you've always been good at showing up with the things, she said, like that was the insult she hoped it would be. The pajamas, the lists, but you're not generous. I'm the most generous person in this room, I said, and I wasn't trying to win. 2 weeks later, I flew home. Before I left, Mom and I sat in the garden, which is a generous word for a square of concrete with a plan for tomatoes. She said, I know you think I'm careless. I'm not. I worry all the time. Sometimes the worry turns into plans without telling me. Plans like spa drips, I said, smiling at my feet. She laughed, winced, laughed again. I'm sorry I scared you, she said, and she looked at me like people do when they are trying to give you the apology they can afford. I'm sorry I yelled at you in a lobby, I said, which was true, and easier. We hugged. It was not cinematic. It was something else, a small daily bread of love. When I got back to my city, the rain was exactly the way I left it, small and polite like it was waiting its turn. I unpacked and went back to work, and didn't have to explain anything to anyone, because the world is full of people who are living their own movies. Months later, Lauren sent me a Venmo request for $2,800 with a memo that read, Care Fee Final. I stared at it, laughed a little, and declined it like I was declining an invitation to a party where everyone brings casseroles of resentment. She followed with a message. You're a disappointment. I followed with none. There's a theory I read once in a book I bought to make myself kinder, that family doesn't get better at telling the truth until someone refuses to be the liar. I am not brave enough to claim that's me. I am only brave enough to say no when I need to, and to show up when it matters. I tell this story not because I need a jury. I don't want to plant flags in the battlefield of internet opinions. I tell it because some of you are probably holding your phones in airport bathrooms and trying to decide whether to run toward a fire that someone is describing to you in great detail, a fire that might turn out to be a candle on a dessert. I tell it because the smell of emergencies should be unmistakable, and because sometimes the people who taught us what emergencies were will also teach us to mistrust ourselves when we smell lavender instead of smoke. When you are a daughter in a family built on stories, you learn to separate plot from diagnosis, drama from blood work. You learn that love is a verb that has nothing to do with invoices. You learn that boundaries aren't punishments. They are the walls that keep the roof from falling. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to be in a hospital hallway at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, holding a styrofoam cup of coffee that tastes like forgiveness, listening to a nurse tell you that your mother will be okay. You get to be there for the real thing. You get to witness what care looks like when no one is charging admission. One last thing. A week after the surgery, Mom called me at night when I was alphabetizing my spice drawer the way anxious people do when they are pretending to be fine. I told Lauren to stop, she said. With the money. With the insurance. I told her no. Thank you, I said. Not because I needed credit, but because acknowledgments are carbohydrates for the heart. She says you're ruining the family, Mom continued, voice light like we were gossiping about a singer buying a silly house. I think I'm trying to build one that doesn't need dramatic lighting, I said. She sighed. I do like dramatic lighting, she said, and we both laughed, the kind that doesn't hurt any stitches, the kind that reminds you humor is a kind of anesthesia, too. I didn't fly 12 hours for an emergency that day in January. I flew 12 hours for a lesson, one that arrived on time and in full. It said, you can love people and not let them spend you. You can answer panic with a plane ticket once, and then the next time answer with a question. You can hold someone's hand while saying no with your mouth. You can be someone's daughter without being their credit card. You can choose the hospital instead of the spa, the truth instead of the performance, the quiet instead of the applause. 2 months after I walked out of Pearl Springs, after the invoices and the insurance requests and the power plays dressed like hugs, I stood at my own window with a cup of tea and watched the rain do its small mercies on the glass, and my phone pinged. A photo. My mother in the garden square, a tomato plant startlingly alive behind her. Her hair frizzed in a way she would never post, her smile smaller than the ones she curates. The text below it, look, it's growing. It was a plant, yes. It was also a way of saying, we can do this. We can be a family that figures out how to grow real things. Not just crises. We can water what's honest and harvest what we can. We can let the rest compost. We can learn. Some days I believe her. Some days I almost do. And on those days I am grateful I walked out of the spa and toward the thing that scared me more. My own voice. Saying no. Saying yes. Saying, I'll be there when it's real.